Make your way into a tabletop position on hands and knees. And once you're in tabletop, you can grab your blocks if you have them and set them up in front of you. Step your left foot forward, maybe using your blocks for support. And once your left foot is forward, you're going to be in this low lunge, asana. So find your footing, laterally widening your knee and your foot apart from each other may make this feel more stable for you. But once you're here in this position, decide if you want to use your blocks. Maybe you want to bring your hands to your hips. You might also consider lifting your arms up either into cactus arms or straight up, whatever feels right. So find your balance here and see if it's possible to lean a little bit forward and then lean a little bit back. Just finding a little bit of movement here, using your lower body to stabilize you, thinking about pressing your front foot down and isometrically squeezing it towards your back knee. Same thing with your back knee, thinking about pressing it down and pulling it towards your front foot. And if this doesn't feel great on your knee, you might take a cushion and place it under your back knee for some softness here. That can often make this way more comfortable. So once you have found a way to make that work for you, and if the movement doesn't work, you can skip the movement and stay in stillness. That's always an option. So once you've tried it a few times, you might consider opening that front leg a little bit towards the side to try out a different angle. And this is going to start to roll your femur into external rotation here. So you might have hands on blocks, you might have hands on hips, you might have hands at a wall for balance, or anywhere else, whatever feels right. Maybe bending a little more and straightening a little more through that leg. Just noticing, what does that feel like in your hip? It might feel like a lot of work, maybe not. And once you've tried it a few times in that position, you might even consider scooching your leg out a little more, just not going further than feels okay in your hip. But you could try out a couple of different angles here and notice which ones feel more or less awkward. Maybe notice which ones feel more or less useful. And once you've done that a few times in that position, you can come back into your tabletop position and step your other leg forward. And if you want to do anything in between, maybe you want to stretch back and over to the left through that hip, pressing your hip back and towards your heels. You might try that. But when you're ready, you can step your right foot forward, come into your asana low lunge on your second side. And same thing here. If stillness works best for you, you can stay in stillness. If you would like to try leaning forward and back, just noticing what muscles are engaging, you can try that. And again, arms can be anywhere you like. And you might notice as you're leaning forward, is it possible to feel a little bit of a stretch or a lot of a stretch even through this back front of your left hip. So you may feel lots of things working. Maybe you feel a stretch. And then once you've tried that a few times, if you want to try widening your stance by scooching your right leg out towards the side and trying a different angle, you could try that. And then again, if you want to try widening your leg even more, maybe try that out. It's up to you. Make sure you're choosing kindly, taking care of yourself. When you're ready, you can come back into your tabletop position. Bring that knee down in line with the other, and maybe try a few stretches, pressing your hips back and at an angle, or anything else that feels right. And when you're ready, make your way up into a standing position, however works for you. If you want to come through downward dog, you might walk your hands forward a little from your tabletop, curl your toes under, lift your hips up and back. And once you're in downward dog, you could walk your feet forward. So you're in a forward fold, and then lift yourself up. Take your time coming into your standing position. And once you're standing, check in with your hips. We've done kind of a lot of hip stuff. You might want to shake out your legs a little and just see what are they feeling like, what's going on with them. Try out any kind of movement that feels like this is what my hips want right now. And when you're ready, come back into mountain pose, Tadasana. Take a couple of moments to just notice what you're feeling. If you want to close your eyes, you can. And then if your eyes are closed, go ahead and open them. And you may want to have someplace you can put a hand for balance for this. So if you have a wall nearby, you might want to stand by the wall. But bring all of your weight into your right leg. Hover your left foot. And then if it feels okay to draw that knee up, do that. And once that knee is up, can you bring your hip into external rotation on that leg? So that might look a little bit like this, and then try bringing it into internal rotation. Might look a little like that. And then try that a couple of times. And the next time your hip is in external rotation, swish it out a little and down, and then up and around, internally rotate it, draw it in, down, up and around, and try drawing these little Mobius band figure 8 shapes. So you're mobilizing your hip here, and we do this pretty often. I tend to call them hip swishes. I don't think there's really a word for it. And you might try lifting and lowering your leg a little as you do this, just noticing like this is a lot of work for your standing leg, but there's a lot of work going on in your moving hip too. So like, where does it feel interesting? Where does it feel good? Is there anywhere that it does feel good? And then when you're ready, you can drop that down, maybe shake out that standing leg, give it a pat and say, hey, thanks. Maybe pat both your hips. Thank you. That was a lot of work. And then we'll try it on the other side when you're ready. So maybe you place your hand at a wall for balance, shift all your weight into your left leg, draw your right knee up to whatever degree. Try internally and externally rotating it a few times. And then move into these hip swishes if that feels like a good option for you. So there might be a lot to feel here. See if you can stay present to all of it and help those allow those sensations to help you make choices about how to move, how much to move, when to take a break, when to keep going. And as you're ready, you can release that. Do anything you need to do here. You might shake things out. You might wind your feet and try a few hip circles, just kind of keeping your knees soft, rolling your hips around. As I'm doing this, my hips are talking to me, just like Rice Krispies. Notice if your body has anything to say to you. And then take your time coming back to mountain pose. Maybe take a few deep breaths. You might inhale through your nose and sigh out through your mouth. You might try horse lips. I love horse lips. So maybe you inhale deeply through your nose and then flutter your lips. And when you're ready, bring all your weight into your right leg again and turn your left leg so you're externally rotating that hip. Come up on your toes and then decide, do you want to lift that leg? So you place you place the sole of your left foot somewhere along the inside of your standing leg and come into tree. So wherever that foot lands, it lands. If you want to use your hand to pull it up further, you can do that. If you want to keep it down low, you can do that. And then what do you want to do with your arms? Maybe you have a hand at a wall for balance. Maybe you have your hands in Anjali Mudra. You might lift them up. So lots of options. So as you're in tree or Vrksasana, you might notice, is there a lot of wind? What's going on? Is there movement? And if not, do you want to create a little movement? So we practice balance very often in yoga. And it's a great thing to practice. And sometimes bringing in a little intentional perturbation can kind of help us to build up to being able to carry this balance over into everyday life where things are more unpredictable. So does that feel like a good kind option for you today? Does it not? It's up to you. And when you're ready, you can release that and try it on the other side. Maybe shake things out first. When you're ready, ground down through your left leg and take your time coming into your version of tree on the second side, whatever that is. And you might come back to your breath. Notice, are you breathing pretty freely? Can you breathe pretty freely? You might check in with your body and see, like, where is tension building? Where has tension built as you've been practicing? Is there anywhere that it's kind of clenching that maybe it doesn't need to clench? And when you're ready, you can release that. Take your time shaking things out, moving things around, maybe doing a few more hip circles or just kind of shaking your hips back and forth a little bit. And then take your time coming down onto your mat. And once you're down on your mat, place the soles of your feet on the ground in front of you. So your knees are bent. And begin to fold over your legs for a very bent version of Paschimottanasana. So you might drape your body over your legs. Maybe you allow your chin to draw down a little. Maybe your neck stretches forward a bit. And can you take some long, slow breaths here, if possible, through your nose? As you're ready, decide how you would like to take Shavasana and set yourself up for just a couple of minutes of rest in Shavasana. If you want to lie down for Shavasana, great. If you want to stay seated, that's fine too. Just whatever is going to feel restful. If you want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. It's not required. Notice if you're following your thoughts. Is it possible to let them go and come back into the present? You might start to wiggle your fingers a little bit. Maybe take a couple of really deep breaths. Start to find a little bit of movement. And if you would like to stay in Shavasana, you could stay in Shavasana. But if you're ready to transition out, if your eyes are closed, you can open them and take your time shifting yourself into whatever position you'd like to be in. If you would like to bring your hands into Anjali Mudra, this gesture of offering, you can do that. You don't have to, whatever feels comfortable. And take a moment to find a reason to appreciate yourself, something you can thank yourself for. And then a moment of acknowledgement for the practice of yoga, an ancient Indian practice that has been kept alive for centuries and centuries and shared with the whole world so that everyone can benefit. And thank you for practicing with me today.